Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Nothing Important podcast. We have the hardest working man on Kickstarter with us right now, Greg Johnson, co-creator of Toe Jam and Earl. Greg, how are you doing today?
Hey there. I'm doing good. I'm good.
Good.
Thank you for that intro. Yeah.
No. Well,
we're too far off, I think.
We're glad to have you, and we're honored to have you on the show. So I'll try not to ask you questions that you've been asked a million times, but I figured at this point you're doing so many interviews and podcasts, and like Matt, who I introduced you to earlier, was telling me he actually saw an article about you in the Wall Street Journal. So you're just all over the place trying to promote Toe Jam and Earl back in the Groove's Kickstarter.
Well, Wall Street Journal, huh? I did not know about that. That's cool. Yeah, and you're right. I have been doing a lot of interviews and podcasts and getting a lot of questions tossed at me. But it's been great. You know, it forces me to think about things in new ways, sometimes at a higher level. I usually have my head down in the details. And so it's good, yeah. See if you can throw me a stumper or two. I want some hard questions.
Well, real quick, we could touch on why exactly, for those listening that might not know, why exactly did you choose to go the Kickstarter route this time as opposed to finding a publisher or investors through other means?
Oh, a couple of reasons actually that it kind of comes from both sides. One is I have tried to go to publishers with this in the past, and haven't had much luck over the years as the fans have been asking for a new Toe Jam and Earl game. When I, get that space in between other projects, I've often put together pitches and hit the road and gone to various publishers. And there was a general perception that I ran into out there that Toe Jam and Earl was just an old property and kind of niche-y and not enough general interest out there, which of course I did my best to jump up and down and wave my arms and represent all the Toe Jam and Earl fans and say, no, there's plenty of people out there that would love it. That in conjunction with the fact that, Kickstarter has grown so much in the last couple of years, and all my friends in the game developer community have been, everybody talks about it and thinks about doing Kickstarters, and then all of I've gotten kind of a flood of requests from fans saying, why aren't you doing Kickstarter? And then there's been a spate of press, like in the game media recently too, suggesting that and asking for crowdsource-funded projects. So all of that in conjunction sort of pushed me into figuring like, okay, maybe it's time to give it a shot and see if it can work. And it would sure feel good too to get vindicated if we can get over the bar and get funded to be able to kind of, thumb my nose a little bit at those publishers that said no way. So we'll see, hopefully.
Right. Kickstarter has been kind of a boon for independent developers. Like, for example, there's been, great success with Shovel Knight. Was a huge Kickstarter campaign. And like I said, we're going to do the best we can to bring in some money. This morning, as we sit here, we're recording this on Sunday. I think it's March 8th. Is it March 8th?
March 8th, yes, it is.
Okay, so,
all day.
So, looking at it a couple minutes ago, we're at $230,000 with 19 days left to go, and we're trying to push it over $400,000 so you can focus and put your heart into this game.
Yeah, great. I know. I think we're in pretty good shape, but we'll see. It started off with a real bang in the beginning, and it looks like, this is no sweat. We'll get over it the bar easy. And as many Kickstarter projects do, things have kind of slowed a bit, and so now we're starting to wonder if we'll get there. But I still keeping the faith. A lot of the fans that are on Kickstarter, it's been so heartwarming. They're kind of mobilized, and they're like the troops rallying and doing shout outs to each other. Like, come on, people, what are you doing to help? And I see that, and it's really, it's just so encouraging and nice to see how devoted some of these people are. So, yeah.
Absolutely. I was looking at NeoGAF. I'm sure you're familiar with NeoGAF.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, they have the whole Toe Jam and Earl thread going, trying to rally the troops, and you kind of touched on this a little bit, but when you see that kind of passion for something that you created like 20 some years ago now, but like, how does that make you feel? Like that has to be a wonderful feeling to see that so many people genuinely care about your product.
Yeah, that's quite an understatement. It's been a real eye-opener and unexpected. I mean, I knew there was still a population out there that likes Toe Jam and Earl, because I've been getting emails, or I should say Mark Borsanger and I have been getting emails over the years and requests. But I had no idea sort of the level of Toe Jam and Earl love that was out there, and the kinds of stories that I've been hearing from people just over the last few weeks about how Toe Jam and Earl played a part in their childhood and what it meant to them in terms of their relationships and their families and their friends, and just these really, really sweet, compelling stories. And I'm sure, I'm sure that there's stories like that tied to a lot of products and for that matter, books and movies. And it's not specific to Toe Jam and Earl, but there was something about the fact that Toe Jam and Earl was a cooperative, lighthearted musical game that maybe was a slow enough paced game that people could relate to each other while they were playing it. And
right.
Yeah, there's definitely a certain culture that appreciates that.
Yeah, the fact maybe that it was open world and gave you a lot of freedom so that you could be playful while you were playing the game and not just be trying to satisfy the goals really quickly, that kind of thing. Whatever it was, there was a bunch of it's resulted in a lot of people having very very strong memories and associations with how it brought them together with other people, and that's the thing that's just kind of bowled me over. You just don't expect that when you're building a game.
You brought up your fellow co-creator Mark Voringer, and I know he's moved on to other products in recent years. Have you heard anything from him about this Kickstarter campaign? Or from him?
Yeah, of course. He's very aware of this, and I'm keeping him posted, and he's checking in, and he's just busy. He's got his own career where he's working with a lot of different clients and companies, and they all have their demands. So he and I live a little bit farther apart now than we used to. We're kind of across the bay, so
gotcha.
I don't see him as often as I used to. But yeah, he's kind of cheerleading from the sides and offering his input and all that.
Well, good. You show the prototype of the game as part of the Kickstarter pitch videos. And it's obviously apparent that this is going to be pretty much, for all intents and purposes, like a true sequel to the first game. So I just have some questions based around that, and I hope you haven't heard them too many times before. But the first Toe Jam and Earl game, I feel, was largely a defensive game, right? Because the only real weapon was the tomatoes. You could get the tomatoes. Everything else was an item that was used to be reactionary, whether it was the decoys or the damn rose bushes that would poke you in the ass if you weren't moving when you use them. So coming up for Back in the Groove, is there going to be more of a focus on the defensive nature of it? Or are you going to try to incorporate the funk notes from Toe Jam and Earl 3, or maybe even the jars from Planet on Funkatron?
Oh, yeah. Well, that's a good question. I'm kind of curious to know how you feel about that, because that's one of the things I've been polling the fans on, and one of the things I was considering early on. As you probably know, we sort of turned the dial pretty far in the other direction for Toe Jam and Earl 3.
Yeah.
And before I answer your question, I'm curious to know what you think about what you would want.
Well, we could go around the room really quickly. Personally, one of the things I love about the first game is that it is very defensive in nature. It's more reactionary, and it's like the fun of it is escaping the Earthlings as opposed to confronting them head on. So as far as my vote personally, I would really, I love the fact that there was just like the tomatoes and the rest of it was either counteracting the actions of the Earthlings or trying to escape the Earthlings. So we can go around the room. So we'll start with Matt. Matt, how would you answer that?
I would go with you on that, Ryan. I really think it's the first game was my favorite by far, and I think the defensive way is to go about it because think about aliens. If they were to come down, they would maybe want to interact, want to stay away from the humans. So I think that goes well.
Yep.
I would go with defensive route.
Yep, Dave.
I third that motion.
Mm-hmm. That's like, Dave's a man of many words.
Yeah. That's why I call myself the co-host. I just kind of let Flood do everything, and I make it sound good. But yeah, I like the defensive part. I'm not much into offensive shoot 'em up type games.
Jeff?
My big thing about the game that we were talking about earlier was just it's the kind of passiveness of the game. You had the goals you had to meet, but you could kind of do whatever you want, and you didn't have to get involved with certain things if you didn't want to. And that's, like you were talking about earlier, family bonding and stuff. That's how we really got to know one of our uncles when we were real young, and he had a Sega Genesis, and we'd just sit around for hours playing Toe Jam and Earl just because it was something to do, but the fact that you had to pay attention, but you didn't have to pay attention was really the kind of the heart of the game. You could pay attention to whatever you wanted to, but still complete the goals and still have fun with whomever you're with.
Right. So I think it's unanimous as far as nothing important goes that we're big fans of the defensive nature. And I think that was one of the great charms, especially when Toe Jam and Earl came out and like Sega was trying to be edgy with like Sonic the Hedgehog and such and trying to compete with Nintendo. Like I feel that the defensive nature of it is something that really separates Toe Jam and Earl from all the other games. It's in many ways it's like a stealth game, like and you're trying to escape where every other game you bum rush them and try to hit like like Toe Jam.
Well, it's
and
also another thing that you just take at your own pace,
right?
Whether it's random or whether it's a random type thing or the levels are fixed, it doesn't matter because you can kind of just do whatever you want when you want to.
Right, because it's more avoiding instead of taking them out. So
yeah.
That's where I sit on that.
Yeah, I that's so interesting. You guys all seem to be kind of on the same page in that regard, and it's something that I hear from in general from Toe Jam and Earl fans. People that have gotten over whatever the barriers or humps there are to get to where you can really enjoy the game, and yet the people that haven't gotten over those barriers, that's exactly the quality of the game that they don't like most, because it's sort of the slow pacing, the fact that you're wandering around a lot in this world, and then you're, mostly what you're doing is getting chased by things. The people who don't get the game and don't like it are the ones who are most vocal about saying, boring. What is this? But thankfully, that's not who I'm building this game for right now.
People who usually are the most vocal are the biggest asses.
Yeah, so they can go play some action shooter game or platformer if they want.
Well, maybe it lends.
Sorry, what?
Well, maybe today's gaming environment kind of lends itself to that open world exploration because, games like Grand Theft Auto or now even the new Zelda that's coming out. These are like sprawling open worlds where there's a lot of discovery, like Dark Souls and games such as that. So maybe the time is right for Toe Jam and Earl to continue what it did in the first game. Because in the first game, like I said, it was very defensive in nature when everybody was trying to be edgy and, coming up with games where you just attack. And there was a lot of discovery in Toe Jam and Earl 1. So I think with, video gaming is so much bigger than it was back then. It's so much more socially accepted to be a gamer. And, there's such a bigger audience in general for video games. I personally think that might actually draw in people to is that whole feeling of discovery.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think you're probably right. I think I'd agree with that observation. And, but I think too that, there's room to sort of push the needle farther in the two extremes. You know, like it's. I think that what I don't want to do is have it be an action-y game all the time and have you be feeling like it's your job to go hunting the Earthlings and be aggressive and you know. And I took a note from Rogue when I was building Game 3 or designing it. I shouldn't say building; we all built it, but and you know how you have a sword in that game and you become more powerful and you attack the enemies in order to get treasure and all of that. We experimented with that with the Funk Flu in Game 3. I'm thinking in this one, though, we won't give you an attack that you can do all the time, so your sort of natural posture will be defensive. But I do want to experiment with a wider variety of presents, especially things that you can do cooperatively that will give you stronger offensive abilities at certain times, just so that when you're feeling overwhelmed, it's more fun to be able to come to your friend's aid with something really powerful, you know?
Right.
And just like, boom, you know, all of the Earthlings go flying away in all directions, and you get that feeling of like, you know, like high five, and I sure helped you out here. So, you know, I want to come up with a bunch of things like that, and I've got a number of things on my list right now, but, you know, but then I wanted to also sort of fall back into that old, just kind of more relaxed pace of wandering around and having time to think and time to talk and just sort of enjoy the ride.
In the prototype of the gameplay, one of the things I notice is when you go, you know, the levels have always been stacked. You know, in Toe Jam and Earl 1, you keep going up. But one of the things I noticed in the prototype is you can actually see the level below you, so you can see the stacked levels. So I was wondering if there was any ideas that you might try to incorporate maybe some like quest or missions or rewards or puzzles where dropping down isn't so much of a penalty. It might be part of the puzzle. Like maybe there's an island that's only accessible from dropping off an island like 3 floors up. Have you given any thought to that, or is there any plans for that?
Yeah, definitely. We've been thinking along those lines too. Same synchronicity there. Yeah, there seems like a lot of potential for that sort of thing. A lot of strategic stuff. You know, even something as simple as being able to walk to a different part of the level and then drop down and land on a platform that you weren't sure how to get to when you were down there. You know, you'll be able to do that kind of thing now. But yeah, in terms of like, you know, we don't have exactly quests per se in Toe Jam and Earl, but I have been thinking that we would take that whole mechanic that we had in Game 2 where you could, you know, have these chains of events where you push a button and then another button appears and you put a point in the coin meter and then something else appears. And we're going to also have these special hidden special presents that are like winged flying presents that unlock. Once you've caught one, they stay unlocked for all future games. So it's sort of one of those meta game elements that we're going to have. And so those will kind of represent a quest sort of within the game, sort of sub-quests that are in addition to the rocket ship pieces. And now we've been talking about things like, you know, pressing a button and then another button appears and then you put that or put a coin in a coin meter and then a rope ladder appears down to the level below you, and then you go down there, and then you find, you know, you continue on to find the present, the winged present, or whatever. Oh, and here's something I haven't talked about yet. Anyway.
All right, nothing important. Exclusive. All right.
Exclusive.
Yeah, I know. I keep thinking of these things on my list that because there's just so much we want to do, so many things I want to get into this game, and I don't really know what we're going to have time for, and we haven't done technical assessments yet, so I don't know how we're going to prioritize it. But one of these many things on the list is that, you know, I talked a little bit about the fact that there's a time travel theme in this new one, and I don't know if you heard about that, but you know how you go up in the different levels after we've sort of exhausted all of the old content of the old Earthlings and, for some number of levels. The idea is that you're going to start going back in time, and one of the things that I thought would be fun is to have, people have been asking a bit about the Funkopotamus and Lamont and if he's going to make an appearance in this game. Mm-hmm. And we've talked a little bit here about some fun ideas for how maybe Lamont had visited Earth in the past, as the Funkopotamus. His role in the universe is to spread the funk, and so he goes around to all these different planets sort of feeding funk, and for some reason Earth has been a real problem and hasn't...
it's because of the Parliament.
Has been resistant to the funk. And so there may be things as you go up in the levels that are sort of little bits and pieces of that story, or things that Lamont has left behind, or maybe he'll make appearances. And I don't really want to give away more than that just now.
That's great. Well, I appreciate you sharing that with us. All right, today's mid-show music break is Toe Jam and Earl themselves singing Back in the Groove. Greg, why don't you tell us a little bit about this song before we play it?
Okay, yeah, sure. Let's see, the song is kind of what we're going to be using as the new theme song for this Back in the Groove game. Mm-hmm. And it sort of tells the story of Toe Jam and Earl, and it talks a little bit in the lyrics about what the role of funk is, and to them, and the lyrics say, these Earthlings are crazy, and all they need is a little bit of funk. And of course, it's very much in the style of the old Toe Jam and Earl music. It's all heavy on the bass and rhythm. So I hope everybody likes it. We had a blast making the song and the music video, and I didn't know who I was going to get to sing the song. Aside from Greg Brown, who you see in the music video, he's Earl, and he did the voice of Big Earl in Game 3. So, and he, I'm not sure what he's doing these days professionally, but he used to be a rapper, what's called a hype man, guy who would come out and get the crowd all excited, before the other rappers came out. And, but I wanted to find somebody who wasn't just a rapper, but who could do like old school R&B soul funk style singing. And so I went online and I just ran across some music videos of this guy named Tones the Prince, or Tones P. Turns out he was down in L.A. I loved his stuff. He's got a very soulful sound and kind of a high voice, higher register voice, and he's sort of a young, thin guy. And I saw his videos, I was like, oh, you could be Toe Jam. He even dyes his hair red. And so I contacted him, and it turned out that he was a big Toe Jam and Earl fan. He's like, what? No way. I used to play that game all the time when I was a kid. And I was like, no way. That's awesome. So it just worked out so good. Flew him up here to the Bay Area. We found some awesome graffiti that was out at this park called Point Richmond in this abandoned building. And it was just a great time. Really, really fun to make that music video.
Awesome. Well, so enjoy Toe Jam and Earl, Back in the Groove.
Come on. Yeah. You ready, big girl?
Yeah, I'm ready, Toe Jam.
All right, let's do this.
Come on.
My name is Toe Jam.
And I'm Big Earl. Mm-hmm.
We come from outer space. Whoa, oh, oh. We crashed down on this planet. It was an accident. This is a crazy place. Hey, hey.
Tell them, Toe Jam.
Oh, yeah, oh, yeah. Funky down in Funkatron.
Get funky.
Oh, yeah, oh, yeah. Funky down in Funkatron. These crazy earthlings stressing out. This crazy world is upside My name is Toe Jam.
And I'm Big Earl.
We got a message to give to you. Well, we coming at you from Funkatron.
Funkatron.
And you need to chill it out. Let me talk to him.
Tell him.
Look, T.O. to the E, jamming on the beat. And now with Big Earl, make him stand to their feet. Crash landed on a strange planet. Trying to find the pieces, but this place is gigantic. Running from the bees and dodging all the moles. Somebody tried to run me over with a lawnmower. Maybe all it needs a little funk. Maybe that's all they need. These crazy earthlings stressing out. This crazy world is upside down. You know that little funky sound is all we need here.
Yeah, you gotta feel the funk from Funkatron. Come on, shake your thing and get it on. You can't hate when you're feeling the funk, yo. Just let it go in the funky flow. Yeah.
Give 'em that funk. Hey, 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 hey. Give 'em that funk. Give 'em that funk. Well. Give 'em that funk. Hey, 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 hey.
Come on.
Give 'em that funk.
Here it is.
Give 'em that funk. Give 'em that funk.
Feel the funk.
All right, Earl, let's go. Let's take care of some business.
I'm with you, Toe Jam. I got your back.
Speaking of the sound and the audio, just kind of curious, like how did you develop as an audio engineer? I'm curious, how did you develop the voiceovers or sound effects or even like the music for the video game?
Oh, and we're talking about Toe Jam 1, right?
Right.
Yeah, so that was really the dark ages. That was back in 1990, and there really wasn't much of a technology in place back in those days. I remember recording stuff into my little Walkman cassette player and handing that, in regards to the music, handing that to the audio guys at the time, John Baker and Mark Miller. And that's where a lot of the music came from, was just me singing bass lines and rhythm lines and that sort of thing. And then, of course, John and Mark came up with a bunch of the music on their own as well. And the sound effects were just me sitting, it was kind of embarrassing, but me sitting at this very lo-fi microphone, some cheapy mic I had on my computer at 1 or 2 in the morning. I remember it was very late, and I stayed there long after everybody had cleared out of the office so that I could not worry too much about embarrassing myself as I, going, la la, and all that stuff, right? Even the hula girl, aloha, that was me. They were just, we didn't have a budget for sound talent or to pay for a studio or anything, so I just did it all and had fun doing it. It's just money, money and all that stuff.
So did that did that continue
mm-hmm.
throughout that method, or like even the new game, are you doing a different style? Obviously, are you gonna have a more higher fidelity recording, or are you just gonna kind of keep what you've always been doing?
Yeah, it's funny. It's really hard now, even with the theory of thing, and I kind of do believe that there's something more personal and charming about lo-fi.
Absolutely.
It's still really hard to do it on purpose. You're sitting there. I'm working with Bert Fishman, who's been doing my audio for the last, 20 years on all these games, and he's awesome. And it's kind of funny to stand there next to him and say, "Can you make it sound worse? Dial it down. It sounds too good." So I'm not quite sure about that, but I still do like the approach of doing stuff vocally whenever possible. Instead of nowadays there's these massive audio libraries. I'm sure you guys have worked with those a lot in your business.
Oh yeah.
Right? You can get audio for anything pretty much at the push of a button, and it's kind of more charming if you have an Earthling pop. Instead of finding a pop sound to do it vocally, or whatever the audio is, if you can do it with your voice, I think it brings a certain... Oh, you know what's cool? I bet you might be interested in this if you don't know this already. I saw this documentary the other day about Miyazaki's movie. What was it? The new movie that he did, and how they did the Foley for it, and how all of the audio was done vocally, even
really?
The airplane sounds and everything. And I was like, no way. And they showed how this guy did it vocally, and it was because they wanted it all to have that sort of human quality and connect people even at a subliminal level.
Yeah.
So I think there's something to that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you can tell when it's usually you can tell if it's a vocal sound effect or something, and yeah, it's just like it fits the feel of what you do with your games. It's definitely just kind of like, I don't want to say like low budget, but you've admitted it's low budget, so I guess I'll say it's low budget.
Not even low budget, but laid back.
Yeah, just that laid back feel. I mean, I'm sure the stoner demographic is a huge fan, and that's just that vibe of just like, yeah, it's all good, man.
Yeah, right. If you want to make somebody smile and just feel good, there's something about that connection that I think is important. If you want to terrify people, then maybe running your fingers across a chalkboard is better than doing it vocally or some, whatever audio you want. But for this kind of a reaction of just feeling good, I think that's the best, in my opinion.
My question to you is, where did you come up with the name Toe Jam and Earl?
Oh, how did I come up with the name Toe Jam and Earl?
Correct.
Yeah, well, okay, let's see. How did I come up with those names? They, gosh. It beats me, really. They just sort of popped out when I was thinking about it. I remember I was kind of half asleep anyway when I came up with those characters. I just woke up from some dream, and I remember jotting stuff down when I was half awake, and their names just were part of that whole thing. I remember I wrote down Toe Jam and Earl at the time, and I think, you can kind of, often what happens in the creative process is you just make connections in your subconscious, and it just comes out, and then later you kind of are more analytical about it. And I remember thinking later, oh, well, Toe Jam sounds kind of musical, and he's got 3 feet. Maybe that's where the toe came from. And Earl sounds like a big name. He's Big Earl, and I wanted him to be a big guy. And I must have some association with coolness and Earl. I don't know why. But I don't know. I really, none of the stuff did I ever think too hard about. It's just kind of, if it feels right, then I just toss it in. And that's kind of the whole MO for Toe Jam and Earl.
Right. And I think that resonates with a lot of people who are fans of the game, because Dave and I, we often talk about like doing these podcasts and stuff. We always do it to entertain each other. And then I think people hear that and they kind of latch on like, hey, these guys don't take themselves too serious, because that's our main goal is always we try to make each other laugh and we put it out there, and hopefully people latch on
and laugh along with us.
Yeah, and laugh along. And I think everything you described about like the sound design and that whole process, I think that's where a lot of the charm and why people hold it so dear to their heart is because it really comes through that, one, it's something you're passionate about, and you're just having fun, not taking yourself too seriously. Like all the sound effects in that game are just so lighthearted and so fun. It gives us such a great character, like everything from the elevator noise to the ding and the rose bushes that come out and the hula girls and such.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
I like that observation, guys, and it's kind of nice that it resonates with you and how you work too. I think that's so true, isn't it? That if you just have fun and you just don't worry too much about what other people are going to think, and definitely don't worry about whether it's going to sell or not.
Right.
You just get in there and enjoy yourself, then hopefully that communicates and other people will sort of pick it up and enjoy it too. It's just like when you're with people in a room and you smile and start having a good time.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of contagious. It's the same principle, isn't it?
Right.
Yeah, and I like the fact that you say it just kind of came to you because it's like, yeah, Toe Jam and Earl, like it out of context is like, what the heck is that? But it has a nice ring to it. It rolls off the tongue, so you're just like, oh, it sounds good. You know, let's go with that. We do that all the time with our stuff. Like, what does that mean? I don't know, but it sounds cool. You know?
Yeah, that's right. When you want to relax, you don't think too hard. It's a little antithetical, and that is kind of the vibe of the game. And what I sort of hope for people is just that they can use it to de-stressify, you know, and let go of all that stuff that they deal with on a daily basis, and just have a few minutes to just sort of let it flow, you know, relax and don't think so hard. And that's kind of why it's like that, I think, you know, that's where it comes from.
That's what people latch onto for sure.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I have a question for you guys.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the sound effects are one of those things that for some reason kind of stick with people over the years. Like 20 or 25 years later, people still seem to remember certain sounds. Sometimes like that dentist laugh is maybe frightening, right? Or whatever. I don't know what it is, but I'm kind of curious to know what sounds sort of, are there any of them that stick with you even still, or that have a special, you know, memory for you?
Well, I actually have a couple. One is the boogeyman doing the boogie 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 boogie, and
Yeah.
I've always loved the carrot man being like and yeah, and of course the hallelujah. Absolutely love the hallelujah. That's like one of the greatest moments in the game is when you level up.
Right. Oh, can I tell you a story about that? Do you know the story about the hallelujah? That's kind of a fun one.
No, I'd love to hear it.
Okay, yeah, I've mentioned this once or twice, you know, but it's been a while. I think I talked about this recently. The Hallelujah actually used to make more sense because, you know, it's the Mormon Tabernacle Fire, and that character used to be what we call the Archbishop. He had one of those tall bishop hats and a mitre, and so that was kind of part of the joke, you know, Hallelujah. But then... Then Sega got kind of nervous. I imagine it was either their marketing or legal department, and they asked us to change it. They're always very skittish about anything that gets close to any religious references. So we, you know, of course, we complied, and we did. We grumbled a little bit, and our producer, Scott Burfield, was real advocate for us. How do I say that? Advocate for us. And he, yeah, you know, he surprised us after we had made the change. He gave me and Mark Vorthanger, my partner, a T-shirt that had the Archbishop on it with a big stamp across the front that said censored. And it was basically a vote of solidarity from Scott to say, you know, he was on our side. So we just thought that was so awesome.
Yeah, that's
so
awesome.
Cool.
That's great.
Yeah.
Matt, what's your favorite sound effect from the games?
I'd have to say my favorite is the la la la. I throw that out every now and again in the office, and I always can tell when the people that have played Toe Jam and Earl, they would give me the look. Like, yeah, all right.
I agree with Matt. Yeah, the la 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 has always stood out.
Jeff?
For me, and we still do this to my nephew and stuff, is the haunted mailbox.
I know, isn't that one of the scariest sounds after you've been got by the mailbox?
Well, especially if you've never played it before. I remember when we first played it, and that kind of came out of nowhere.
Oh,
And
yeah. Speaking of sounds, the two worst sounds in Toe Jam and Earl is whenever they come off screen, it's the mailbox and it's the dentist.
Yeah.
Like when you hear the cackle of the dentist, but you don't see it on screen yet for whatever reason, and you're just like, oh shit. And then you always hope you're not on one of them little wiggly landforms because them assholes will always knock you off the damn level. So that's
funny. I know when you're terrorized like this, a kid, even a video game, those things sort of still stick with you, and now it's fun to share those moments, as adults with other people that experience it too.
Well, absolutely. For our listeners or anybody out there listening to this, it's up to us to make sure that this game gets made. Please make sure that you hit up Kickstarter and donate to the cause. Today, as we record this, we're at about like $230,000. So we got a little bit to go in 20 days. So you people on NeoGAF, make sure you're pushing this. Let's really get the word out. Greg, thank you so much for hanging out with us on Nothing Important. I'm going to let you go and continue on your day. But I hope that once the game does release, because I got a feeling it's gonna be funded. It has to be funded. So I hope that when it gets completed and ready for release, I hope you come back and hang out with us again. And is there anything that you want to say to anybody listening right now before we hang up the phone?
Thanks, Brian. And yes, well, first I just want to say thanks to you guys. It's a lot of fun talking to you. It's pretty clear that you have some real genuine enthusiasm about, Toe Jam and Earl and your memories from the past. And that's always really nice. It makes me feel very connected to you guys. I love it.
Oh, thank you.
So thank you. And thanks for the plug, too, and the help with Kickstarter. Yeah, so as far as that goes, I want to say, first, thanks to everybody who has supported us already. Much appreciated. And we're going to be making a bunch of announcements on Monday. So I'm not sure when this is going to air, but if you have been to the Kickstarter page already, Toe Jam and Earl page, please come back because there's going to be a bunch of new stuff there to see, and hopefully that'll be interesting and enticing to people.
Great.
And to clarify, that's Monday, March 9th is the date you're going to put that up.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Yeah. Our campaign ends on March 25th. So, we're getting, and we've still got almost halfway to go. So we can sure use the help. So if you play Toe Jam and Earl and have good feelings about it, any little bit helps. We sure appreciate it.
All right, guys. So you heard the man himself. It's up to us to make this happen. So let's make sure that we do. Greg, thank you so much, and I hope to talk to you again in the future, bud.
Thank you. Same here. We will.
Thanks,
sure.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
All right.
All it needs a little fun. Maybe that's all they need. These crazy earthlings stressing out. This crazy world is upside down.
All right, guys. So how cool was that, Greg, from co-creator of Toe Jam and Earl? How awesome was that?
That's fascinating.
And he seems like a cool guy.
Yeah.
Absolutely, very very cool dude. I think I told a story, and I'll just go ahead and tell it for sake of this podcast. When I saw IGN that day, it was just a little link that says new Toe Jam and Earl game coming, and so I clicked on it, and it was pretty much just like one paragraph that just says, hey, you know what? Like, news leaked out. Greg Johnson, co-creator of Toe Jam and Earl, is making a new Toe Jam and Earl game, because at the time there was nothing about the Kickstarter or anything. And I'm like, oh shit! Like, I'm gonna try to get him on the podcast, right? So like, totally being obnoxious, trying to get him on the Toe Jam and Earl fan page on Facebook. And then like an hour went by, and I'm like, no, fuck that. He has a studio. I'm just going to call the goddamn studio and ask for Greg. and he could have been nicer. I called, and it's funny because he didn't answer with the name of his studio. He's just like, hello. And I'm like, yeah, is this Human Nature Studios? And he's like, it is. And I'm like, is Greg there? He's like, yeah, this is he. And I'm like, Greg Johnson? He's like, yeah. I'm like, the Toe Jam and Earl guy? He's like, yeah. I'm like, Greg!
I found you.
Yeah. And I'm sorry to geek out because, I've mentioned it a few times. Like, I could give a shit less about celebrity. Like, Brad Pitt could come in and sit right here, and I'd be like, oh, big whoop, Brad Pitt, you're a better actor than I am. Like, who gives a shit about Brad Pitt? That's just my thing about it. But, like, with him, it's probably the first time in my life that I was actually geeked to talk to somebody, you know, because like I'm a huge nerd, and this is one of my all-time favorite video games. So I'm just incredibly excited that he was on, and we had a couple.
I think one of the cool things about the whole talking to him and kind of getting to know him through that conversation is realizing just how laid back the whole process for that game was,
right.
You know, and how chill the whole thing was, and it really translates to the game,
Right.
because that's all it is a hangout game. You know, you sit with a buddy, you maybe have a beer or two or whatever, but you get to sit and converse while you're just doing the mindless things. But it's not necessarily mindless.
How do you feel about that, Dave? What would you be doing when you're playing Toe Jam and Earl?
I don't talk about that publicly. Probably passing a joint.
Furiously masturbating.
What about you, Matt?
Furiously masturbating.
What about you, Matt? Like when we lived together in a fraternity house, we would play that game all the time.
Thinking it'd be really cool if he did the time machine back to the original game, like a level of the original game. That'd be really cool if he could pull that off. But just talk to him. He was great, man. I mean, I didn't expect him to sound like that. Honestly, I was expecting, you know, with all these voices he said he did, you know, and I don't know, but really cool guy, man. I really enjoyed it.
Absolutely. So he kind of gave us a little bit. The time travel thing, right? That was an exclusive.
Exclusive,
right? But I mean, that's great. I would have never. Because, like, really, I mean, like, who the fuck are we? You know what I mean? We're the Nothing Important podcast, and in all honesty, that probably means nothing to precisely just about everybody on Earth, right? But it's cool that he took time to do that, and not only that, he gave us, like, a bit of info that he hasn't told anybody. And so I just like to say, take that, IGN.
Well, that and the fact that, like, we were kind of worried about taking up his time, and then, you know, the technical snafu that we didn't mention till now.
Yeah,
like we actually had him come back on to do like another second half of the interview.
Right, yeah. You know. But that just shows, let me start with this. For anybody listening, what happened is we finished the interview with Greg. We actually record at Third City Sound Music Studio in Joliet, Illinois. So it's like a professional music studio and such. So we're recording right now in what's called the live room, where people come in and play the instruments, and then you go beyond the wall and it's the engineering booth.
The control room.
The control room. Thanks, Dave. And Dave was the first one in there, and his face just turned bright white because the computer had crashed. We had the blue screen of death.
Nobody was sitting in front of the computer. We just kind of let it roll while we did the podcast.
Yeah. And so we were there was like a legit concern there that we might not have got it. So I think this says a lot for Greg, because I thanked him by text message after we hung up the first time. And he said, you know, basically, dude, I had a ton of fun. Thanks for having me. And my response to him was, well, I hope it turns out, because because our computer crashed. And at the time, we didn't know how much of the podcast we had captured.
Right.
And it turns out we actually got most of the podcast. So without even being prompted, he just came back with, well, hey, you guys want to capture that again? Like, I'm here. Give me a call, and I'll be more than happy to talk back with you. With just absolutely stellar. Like that's just a cool, like, you know, bro hug.
But he kind of, the way he was acting and stuff, personifies the Toe Jam and Earl
Vibe.
characters, and the vibe that just goes into the game.
Yeah,
right.
Like that game is that's him.
Right.
That's awesome.
Absolutely, just a cool dude. So before we sign off, final thoughts, starting with Matt.
Final thoughts, man. I honestly, what I got most out of it, I thought the coolest thing was when he talked about how we did all the voicing over at 2 a.m. in the morning. I just thought that was the neatest thing. You know, I never would have guessed that was all him doing it, you know?
Yeah.
So.
Especially like the Aloha. He mentioned that he even did the Hula Girls. The Aloha. That's so great.
Which my favorite thing, in addition to that, and like the explanation of the low-fi quality to the sound effects, is that he would write the music by singing it into his Walkman and then give it to the music guy to create the track.
Very 90s of
Very
him.
John Tesh.
Very, oh yeah. But I mean, it is no NBC Sports theme though.
Yeah, that's true. But I still remember that John Tesh thing where he talks about how he created it. Do you guys ever hear that story?
No.
He said he was on an airplane and the melody hit him, so he called his voicemail. This is back in like the 90s or 80s or whatever. So he just called and he left it. Not his voice, his answering machine. He sang it into his answering machine. So when he got home from his trip,
So he was on a trip and just was like, "Hey, this sounds good," and goes.
so he calls his answering machine and just sang that into his answering machine.
It'd been funny to be the person next to him, like, what are you doing?
I'm John Tesh, dude.
Awesome. Jeff, what did you think, buddy?
No, I thought he was great, and I really hope the best for him and the game and any of the fans that really want to or have already donated to him. And, I plan on donating and helping him really get this off because it's a fun thing. I mean, it's just a fun game, and it's a lot different than the types of things that are ultra super popular right now, but that's all shoot in the head type stuff. Mm-hmm. It's a different concept. It's a different just vibe. And I really hope it's successful for him.
I'm very curious to see how well it'll translate to the next generation too.
Yeah. Well, I personally, as a lifelong nerd, I think the world needs another true Toe Jam and Earl game. So, Matt, Jeff, thank you very much for sitting in with Dave and I. Again, thanks to Greg Johnson for speaking with us today. Please make sure that you go to the Toe Jam and Earl Kickstarter. I'll have links to that posted on nothingimportantpodcast.com, and also it's allgoodman.com. Let's make this happen, folks. Thanks to Third City Sound for letting us record in your studio. Make sure to hit us up on Facebook, Twitter, all that good stuff. Leave the great iTunes review. And Dave, you can stop recording now.